Morning frost clung to the edge of my cloak as we chewed through a meager breakfast grilled leeks, surprisingly tolerable. Sorex had cooked. I stood, brushing off crumbs, already shifting into mission mode. Time to start looting, I guess. Viri blinked, uncertain. Is this normal for adventures? I smirked. Mine are. Start sneaky, lose stealth, corner yourself, beat everything that moves, then loot what's left. Sorex joined in, voice cool and matter of fact. Most fights end before they begin unless power's balanced. Then it's about fine edges. Take Undead for example. Strong, many, but dumb. No thought, just grief, duty, vengeance. Except liches, necromancers, vampires they still think. I nodded. An adventurer only needs 3 things. Be sly, be sharp, and adapt fast. That's how you survive when the code turns on you. Viri let out a sigh, muttering how the world felt less magical now, while Sorex just laughed, calling it fun and brushing it off with a reminder of our looming task list. I slipped through the ship's warped entrance, melting at the edges like time was softening. Itand immediately felt a wrongness in the silence. Even the water had stopped speaking. We had a plan this time. Sorex hunting for salvage, Viri clearing the captain's quarters, and me straight to the cargo hold, chasing the source. I didn't want anyone getting hurt, not by what I suspected we'd find. Inside, the wreck was quiet but humming with something ancient. I found it in the ruins of a shattered chest, locked once but now torn open by frozen tendril. There, pulsing like a breathless heart, was the hearth gleaming, cold, a sapphire pearl of impossible memory. As it responded to my presence, my hands lit with blue glow, and I whispered a spell into the frost. Sure enough, I had surpassed 100% frost resistance, but even then, the hearth felt cold, too cold. My interface buzzed. Atmaran inheritance added, living blizzard added, frozen death added. Achievement. First player to unlock their personal quest. Unique achievement. Eye of a Dead Storm. New personal quest added, a forgotten land. A whisper asked, would you like to view the memories of the past? Another, adapted backstory available. View now? Before I could answer, darkness swallowed everything. Flashan office. A suited man faced someone in a wheelchair. Want to test it? The response. Let me get this straight. You offer terminal patients a shot at your game? A nod. It's a full world in Elder Scrolls Batabule to test the AI's care systems, to give people like me a second chance? Another nod. The man exhaled. All right, I'm in. Tell me the rest. Then Snap gasped, jolting upright in bed. Reality or simulation? Still unknown. I woke from that dream, a gang glitches stitched into sleep, echoes I didn't invite, brushed it off like frost on armor. Bow in hand, cloak drawn tight, I stepped into the cold that bit harder than usual. Yurigam waved, trying to sound casual, but his eyes knew better. You remember your mission? He asked, like we hadn't burned that into my soul already. Yeah, I muttered. Skyrim, glory, save the bastion, save the world, easy. He wasn't buying it. It's more than that. The Kelderfrost won't stop itself. I knew. That storm wasn't weather, it was hunger coated into the sky, devouring Atmora one frozen breath at a time. I adjusted my gear, locked eyes with the horizon. I've rewritten fate before, I'll find a way. Yurigam handed me a pouch. The last of our ancient gold. Currency feels quaint now, huh? I nodded, heart cold but burning. Time to breach the code again. They couldn't give me more, just a sack of gold and Kind's blessing. I nodded, pocketing the coin, playing the part. Then Jacqueline dashed over, holding out her treasured book. I hesitated. That was her most valuable possession. She smirked, said I'd need it more. A token of memory, or maybe a goodbye disguised as strategy. I took it. Thanks, Jacqueline. She shoved me toward the docks. Don't forget where you came from. I smiled at the wreck behind me. How could I? Flash consciousness rebooted. I was awake. In control. My gut churned from the flood of Cho's memories, the before-game files reintegrating like corrupted save data. And with that, Vec Frostwain was back. I got what must have been my backstory like echoes sliding into focus. I stopped everything, let the fragments surface. A life before this game, before Vec Frostwain. I was trapped in a broken body, motionless, fading on Earth. I had signed my fate away willingly, choosing this code-bound world over that quiet cage. Players had their memories wiped on entry, but once we triggered personal quests, pieces returned, and now mine had just turned on. It made me wonder about the rules, the violence, the morality, but in truth, none of it stuck. I wasn't that person anymore. I remembered the pain, but not the name, not the face, just the fact that I had chosen this. So I shut it down, buried it. If I was paralyzed back there, I'd walk taller here, no more doubt, no more old life. The logs didn't lie. That blank space now held my story. And if that story meant anything, it meant this. I was Vec Frostwain now, and I wasn't going back. I used to think my backstory didn't matter, just a loose thread in the larger weave. But something changed. The simulation began echoing pieces of it back at me, warping the world around my forgotten motives. 3 rules seemed to anchor this personal quest system. What I claimed to be, how much I leaned into it, and some intangible thread linking past to present. But none of it felt stable. Was it fate? Or was the code rewriting itself around me? My mission? Save a dying realm from a storm that breathes. Yet I couldn't even remember why that mattered. No point in digging some memories are better left buried. Still, the more I ignored it, the louder it grew, like phantom code looping unfinished. And now, my thoughts swim with fragments data points dancing just out of reach, forming a ghost of the self I was never meant to recall. They taught Frost to obey. Giants tamed, not fought march for Atmora like loyal beasts. And then there was the hearth. Not just a relic, but the frozen heart of a storm that once lived, breathed, and broke mountains. I stared into it, flexed my hand and ice, bloomed, reversed it, and nothing remained. It was real. The Hearth of Ice's Melta wasn't some enchanted toy. It was a corpse. A remnant of a storm so mighty it birthed ice wraiths and the undead in its wake. Even Stalrim harder than Ebony was, just its aftershock. But this was just the echo. I climbed out of the ship's cold gut, breath returning, and realized I had held death's memory in my hand and called it power. I held the hearth still humming with a frozen pulsine in both hands as Viry squinted. That's the artifact? I nodded. Simplest way to say it, the corpse of a living storm. Sorex looked horrified. How are you not dead holding that thing? The answer was buried in achievements I'd stacked. Earlier one of them, Eye of a Dead Storm, granted me a gift wrapped in frostbite. Frozen death. Now I was 50% frostproof, totally immune to poison and disease, and couldn't be one-shotted by a crit to the vitals. Didn't mean I was invincible, I could still die but I wouldn't drop just because the game rolled a brutal hit. Funny how you don't know what you need until it's already rewriting the rules of your body. So yeah, no resurrection arc or tragic twist, just me. A glitch-made ghost, holding a storm's bones, rewriting death one artifact at a time. I was immune now to the very method of killing I'd perfected, and as I looked back at him with a smirk I thought, maybe that's just my nature. Feel any different? She asked. But I just pointed ahead. What really mattered was that I could finally unfreeze the dome around the ship. Their eyes widened. For real? They said in unison, and I couldn't help but grin. So, who wants a pirate ship? That got a laugh. Then let's take the whole damn thing with us. I placed my hand on the icy hearth, willing the frost to melt as sunlight crept back over the deck. A gasp broke the silence. Then he cut in with a question none of us had considered. Either of you know how to steer this thing? I just pointed again. No. She shook her head too, reminding me we still had gear back on the little boat we'd rented to get here. We all scrambled down the gangplank, her shouting to catch up. What are you two even doing? I shouted, grab the boat, get it aboard. Sorex was already hurling our camp gear onto the rowboat like it owed him money. I took the back end, he took the front, and we marched it like a war prize onto the pirate ship. We need a name, I muttered. He nodded, eyes squinting toward the sea. Gotta ask my father. If he sailed this thing, it probably already has one. Viry raised an eyebrow. And what exactly are you going to do with the whole ship? I hesitated technically. It was Sorex's. His father sent us on this madness. But I got the hearth. That had to count for something. Sorex chuckled. I think we can strike a deal. I narrowed my eyes. Don't try to businessman me. The rowboat landed on deck with a thud. I paused. We got to change those flags unless we want to get blasted sailing into solitude. He grinned. I got it. You figure out how to drive this thing. I cracked my knuckles. Viry stared at me. Why are you smiling like that? I looked her dead in the eyes and smirked. You seriously don't get it? Viry, it's a free ship the size of a warship. That's not just profit, it's pure fun. She exhaled like I'd grown a second head. And what exactly are you going to do with it? I shrugged, counting off on my fingers like I was listing snacks. 1. I'll need it when I head back to Atmora Massive Utility. 2. Trade. War is good business, and a ship this size? I could rake in septums just moving crates. 3. I don't have a house, so hey, floating base. And 4, I grinned, that cursed tree? It's coming with me. Viry blinked, confused. Wait, where even is Atmora, and what tree? I paused, realization hitting like a bad save file. Of course she didn't know, couldn't read, couldn't write, and definitely skipped Nordic History 101. She gave me that look half confusion, half, why am I even listening to this? I sighed. You're Breton. No wonder they skipped Nordic History. Alright, quick crash course at Mora. Ancient frostbitten continent, north of Rose Krea, which no one even remembers exists. That tree I mentioned? Odine. Magic, old, alive, technically a hist. But I'm guessing your syllabus missed that one too. Her eyes glazed over. Yeah, I'll just... She walked off, leaving me with the wheel and my own frustration. Sure, she wasn't big on history, but she had other advantages. Focus, Vec. Steering first, flirting later. I cracked my knuckles, eyeing the controls like a spell I hadn't cast yet. Anchor still down, and I had no clue how this thing moved. Then, from above, a shout cracked the moment. Slowly, slowly. I'll admit I wasn't exactly born to captain a ship. We hit ice more times than I'd like to count, but I still got us to the Solitude docks with only minor trauma. Midway through, Vyri lost a fight with her stomach and baptized the ocean while I thought the waves were fine. Sorex barked, "Close enough! Dropping anchor!" Like he'd survived a storm sent by the Nine themselves. As we hit land, Vyri bolted like the dock owed her something, and Sorex followed, wobbling like he'd just discovered gravity. I tried to play it cool. "Hey guys!" Captain Aldous was already bracing for impact, eyeing them like they carried contagion. "All right, I'm scared to ask," he muttered. I shrugged, no clue either. Sorex didn't hold back. Vex should never drive anything. I've never felt this sick. Just then, Corpulus strolled down like this was a comedy show. "You know," he said, whistling, "I expected something, but not this." Sorex stared at him, questions brimming. But it was Aldous who turned to me, eyebrows raised, and asked, "How do you manage to do these things?" he muttered, and I just smiled faintly. "Manage what?" His sigh was louder this time. "Whose name is this being registered under?" Before I could answer, Sorex stepped in with a cool grin. "It'll be under mine. I'll handle all the paperwork." That actually earned a small chuckle from Corpulus. "You know," he said, shaking his head, "I wanted you to get some experience like I did, but I never thought you'd actually bring the damn ship back." Sorex laughed, leaning back. "Honestly, I still can't believe you were ever a pirate." That cracked Captain Aldous up too, his booming laugh filling the air. "Ha! I remember when the sailors found him stranded at Seashock to find someone from the so-called Dead Man's Dread gang," Corpulus chuckled, almost nostalgic. "We were never that dangerous. Just bad reputation, thanks to how small our crew was." Aldous nodded with a grin. "The Black Bloods? Now those were killers. But the Dead Man's Dread? Barely left a body behind. In fact, there were even reports of them saving stranded sailors and bringing them into their ranks." Vyri shot me a look, already walking off. "I'm gonna get a drink." I paused just long enough to call after her, a smirk curling on my lips. "By the way, we've got a ton of materials." Captain Aldous shrugged off my question about the Forge Classic delegation tactic. Said I'd need to ask the Forge Master, who's buried in Imperial work. Perfect. That's exactly what I need to boost my smithing ebony tier. Here I come. Plus, I've got a shipload of loot from Dead Man's Dread, assuming that's still canon in this timeline. Might be a good excuse to drop by the Blue Palace too. Grab the Wabbajack, stir up the Wolf Skull mess, multitask like a proper glitch hacker. As I'm plotting this out, beard stroking like a villain, Corpulus claps me on the shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" he asks. I smirk. "Money." He laughs like I just rewrote capitalism. "Spoken like a true merchant. I've got a proposition for you, Vec." Sorex trailing all this with ship paperwork and nod. "What's the play?" Corpulus grins, motioning toward the inn. "Come on, I can't leave the bar unmanned for long." "The simulation shift side quest accepted." I gave a nod, and he leaned in, voice low, like a side quest you didn't expect to matter. "Here's the deal. This wasn't just a random errand. It was a test. You've been thinking of building an info guild, right?" Another nod from me. "Well, I'm planning to revamp part of the Winking Skeever. You chip in with the gold, and in return, you run your network out of my place. Think about adventurers, drop rumors like coin, and my tavern hears it all." I saw the angle immediately. "You help manage it while I'm gone. I take 25% of any long-term profits, especially if it's all intel and whispers." A fair deal on paper, but then came the twist. One condition. Help my son settle down. Get him out of the blade and blood life. I've danced too close to the end myself, and I'm not letting him do the same. He rubbed his chin, giving me that half smirk. "Honestly, thought you'd take on some phantoms, pocket a few relics, and bounce, but showing up with that ship? You've got more in you than I guessed." I could only assume he'd done something reckless with the damn artifact that was sitting in my inventory after all. "So you only handed that cryptic note to Sorex because of the golden net Morris I gave you?" I asked. He nodded, eyes gleaming. "I figured he'd drag you into it eventually. He dreams of adventure but hasn't lost touch with reality. I thought things through, and here we are." I smirked, intrigued. "Not a bad deal." Corpulus chuckled, then dropped the hammer. "Fair warning, we need 100,000 in gold." I choked, almost swallowed my tongue. "That much?" He grinned like a madman. "New rooms, a basement, second office, maybe even a library. Information guilds don't come cheap, Vec." He mused about buying an estate instead, maybe running the whole thing from Proudspire Manor. I sighed. "Fine, I'll get you the gold, damn swindler." He laughed. 20% cut in profits, I shot back. That made him howl with laughter. Meanwhile, I forged yet another Imperial sword, sweat mixing with the weight of what comes next. This was the 178th prototype. I'd forged harder than I imagined. Days blurred, metal screamed, and progress felt glacial until I sacrificed points. Smithing bent beneath my will, but I wasn't here for the basics. I needed everything, the entire tree. Max it out or burn trying. So I stripped the ship bare, sold what didn't anchor us, and boosted my persuasion through trade. Spellcasting became ritual. Grant Frost resistance cast again. Training sessions at Castle Dur were brutal but hand-to-hand and two-handed. They sharpened fast. I ignored my usual crutches archery, one-handed. Time was a rare alloy, and I'd use it to fill the gaps. Thanks to Division and Harmony, progress flowed smoother than I thought. Level 38 now. Maybe top tier. Maybe the only one who dared grind where he was weakest. I left no branch untouched on perk point in every tree, prepping for code level control. 2 passive effects pulsed beneath the surface gifts from that personal quest. Something in me had changed. Maybe everything. A new power surged through me living Blizzard. Simple yet devastating. It let me summon a storm to crush anyone in my path, while its passive effects wrapped me in frozen death and hidden immunities. But nothing thrilled me more than the Atmaran inheritance flowing through my veins. Biran just stared at me, dumbfounded. At this point, I don't even know what to say. You went from clueless to Master Smith in days. You never even stopped. I rubbed my forehead and muttered, "Guess it's just in my blood." He nodded, half smirking. Freed me up to handle my own errands, so I don't mind. I glanced at the forge one last time and told him, "I'll be using your forge again. Time to craft my own armor and weapons." He shrugged, resigned. "Go ahead. You put me ahead of schedule anyway." He'd been shocked from the start. Not just swords, but full armor sets came off my hands as if they'd always been there. But it was no secret to me. The Atmaran inheritance was the real craftsman. My violet eyes narrowed as I opened my skill screen and stared at those chilling passive effects again, feeling the weight of how hot I was becoming. My learning rate for warrior skills just skyrocketed by 50%. Magic skills climbed 25%, and even thief skills ticked up 10%, and that was just the passive bonus. The real insanity hit when my empowerment skill tree surged by 40 points just for having the effect. I wasn't even sure reality was holding up anymore, but the avalanche kept rolling. The Atmaran inheritance? It slammed every ounce of cultural knowledge into my brain rituals, combat forms, even the twisted logic behind why my draconic book taught me Thuum. Turns out, I'd been missing 2 things. A personal quest trigger and mastery of something called song dressing, or better said, tonal magic. Without it, the way of the voice was locked tighter than a Dwemer vault. So now I need to chase fragments of lost magic, either through High, Hrothgar, Winterhold, or if the impossible cracked open a Dwemer sage. I exhaled, almost mechanically, and pulled my final batch of smithing materials. Just 2 points left until level 100. I'd already stacked the perks. Ebony smithing, arcane craftsmanship, light and heavy armor specialties, weapon and accessory masteries. I could build anything, but I wasn't done until I planted the last perk point in mastery and proficiency. After that, I wasn't just crafting armor. I was forging godhood. No enchantments, just raw will. I held the hearth-tight Skyrim cold, seeping into my bone sand, imagined it forged into something more, something worthy of its frozen death grip. An amulet. Real, anchored, dangerous. I needed its passive effect, active, not idle. Next, the Blue Palace. Fix the Black Star without crawling to Winterhold. Sybil Vampire, Conjurer, Wildcard had the nerve and knowledge to crack Daedric design. I'd hand her the artifact, get it tuned, and trap a queen's soul inside Potema's. I wasn't about to let her rise or risk anyone suspecting resurrection. The cave would wait. Then, Olaf's verse. The final layer would snap into place. I'd already crafted a full Stalrim suit faceplate included. Vec Frostwain was no longer a whisper in the code. I was the rewrite, a set of fanged horns curved over my brow, the final touch to a suit born not from one world but from the scraps of many Stalrim, cold as regret, ebony dark as lost choices, and saber-tooth pelts soft as fading memories. I cinched the Frost Hearth amulet around my neck, its magic pulsing in sync with the icy breath of my armor. Well? I asked, arms raised like a question to the void. Vyri arched a brow. What about mine? I clicked my tongue. Chest. Hers was steel and Stalrim too, but heavier and unexpected. I tailored it for stealth, thinner in places but never cheap. If she hated it, she could forge her own future. I turned, words trailing like code left uncommented. I stepped out of the winking skeever, muttering to myself, "Guess I'm heading to the Blue Palace." And no, I won't spend all day drinking. The streets buzzed as I made my way to Radiant Raiment, figuring noble clothes would impress the court and maybe open some business connections. The moment I walked in, the Altmer shopkeeper glared at my adventuring gear and clicked her tongue. I smirked. Yeah, yay adventurer look. Problem is, I need something sharper for the Blue Palace. Thought you might help. Before she could reply, her sister chimed in sweetly, offering to assist, only to be shoved aside with a sharp, I saw him first. The two sisters started bickering, voices overlapping, sparks flying. I raised a brow and cut in with a grin. Hey, now surely you both can help me? They froze. Actually, you could help us. Terry pulled out what looked like a shirt silk. Cotton? No, rarer. She beamed. This is a new piece. It's made from a rare kind of silk. I raised a brow. Let me guess. Insect silk? Frostbite spider, maybe? Their silence confirmed it, of course. Not part of the quest I remembered, but I sighed. I'll still wear it. I'm guessing there's a story. Another sigh. Tari admitted, we bought it from a Khajiit caravan. Turns out, nobody wants to wear spider silk. Too pricey for commoners. Too creepy for nobles. It looks amazing, but doesn't sell. That track also meant the Khajiit had deeper stock than expected. Fine, I'll model it for a 5% cut of any Blue Palace commission. They hesitated, whispered, calculated. Finally, deal. If you secure the order, you get 5% of the profits. Also, 5% off your own spider silk set. They tried to sell me the clothes too fine. I'd pay right then and there. They practically burst with joy handing over the outfit. Once equipped, I headed to the Blue Palace with a few objectives in mind. The guards waved me through. Court was in session. I already knew the topic. Wolf Skull Cave. I stayed quiet, watching Baldur gave me a nod. Sybil still wore the perfect illusion of humanity despite the vampire truth beneath. But Elisif, I had to look away. Her beauty wasn't just nobly broke focus, even for someone like me. Still, I kept my composure when Falk summoned me. Hello, I said with a calm smile. I am Vec Frostwing. Some of you know me. Some have only heard the name. And others? I'm just background static in their simulation. But none of that matters, because I'm here now, standing between fractured code and royal protocol, with business for the college and the raiment. The outfit? Handcrafted, perfectly tailored, like it knew my shape before I did. She smiled, complimented the threads wore one of their gowns herself once, on a day that now brings more silence than song. Her gaze dropped, the air thinned. And then, like glitch hunters smelling a shift in data, the others cut in wanted to know why a bard would bother with fire and legend. I told them, it's called the Burning, and it's a relic wrapped in noise brutal. Maybe, but it keeps grief breathing and gold flowing. Some say it honors a king. I say it tests whether we still believe in stories. You recently banned the festival, and honestly, I get why there's a sharp edge to the memory of it. The Bard College cooked up a scheme to recover an old verse about a fallen king. Someone as controversial and brutal as the rebel who struck your heart in more ways than one. You weighed my arguments silently. Arms drawn tight around yourself, eyes heavy with grief and duty, as I spelled out the case. Restoring the festival could help you let go of seeing it as his victory and instead reclaim it as yours. At last, you exhaled, whispering that if I brought back the verse, you'd consider it. I bowed, calling you fair in more ways than one, and though your cheeks flushed at the compliment, I caught a sly roll of the eyes from one in your court, and another's faint smile. Then came the cough that broke the spell. Was there more business? Yes. I leveled my gaze, speaking of the sealed wing of the palace, a third of its halls locked away in silence since an era long gone. I challenged the absurdity of keeping it hidden, and for a moment the entire court fell into a hush, the kind of quiet that comes when old wounds and deeper fears threaten to rise. My silver tongue twisted their doubt into approval. Falk Firebeard exhaled a weary breath. You're right, it's been too long. Go, inspect the wing. If it's safe, we'll clean it up. Bulger stepped in like a man with a plan. Could house guards, or just be useful. Here, take the key. I took it with a bow, masking surprise. Didn't know he had one. Thank you for the audience. May our paths cross again. Court dispersed, but my eyes tracked Sibyl. Something about her pulled at the veil of logic. I followed. You're the court mage, right? Got any spell tomes? She sighed. Tried to shake me. But once we slipped into shadows, I leaned close and whispered, a vampire as old as you must hoard secrets like spellbooks. She paused just to blink and moved on. I can sell a few. But real magic? You'll want the College of Winterhold, I smirked. I prefer learning from the wise. I'm no fan of the undead, yet you're a rare exception. Someone who's lived through the reigns of 3 maybe 4 emperors? That's unheard of. She sighs, eyes sharp despite the weight of centuries. What is it you actually want? I've played enough of the court's games to know you're not here for spells. I grin, letting just enough of my intent show. Brilliant. Wiser than me, perhaps. I want your help reshaping the fate of a Daedric artifact. Azura's star. You can even study it yourself if you help me twist it into something new. The Black Star. That gets her attention. The air shifts. My smile fades as I lay it all bare, and she laughs, a little nervous now. You're actually serious? Then tell me, how do you expect to pull this off? I shrug like it's simple. Partially soul, trap me. The spell's called Soul Extract, isn't it? Once inside, I'll kill the one squatting in Azura's star. After that, I'll do the work and you just pull me out. When the mortal soul is gone, the artifact will be changed, and so will fate. She narrowed her eyes at me, like a debug scanner, scanning for bugs. Let me analyze the star. If it's not trash code, I'll help. While I tinker, go handle the Pelagius Winged, act surprised. I know you're chasing Daedric noise. So she was tuned into the distortion. The Pelagius Wingware memory loops went dark and people vanished like erased assets. Probably a prince's doing. I raised a brow. How do I know you won't just crash the deal? She smirked and flicked a key at me. My room key. A symbol. I don't even lock the doors too much effort for someone who values peace more than paranoia. I like research. You bring material, I give answers. Maybe later I get a peek at those rings. My fingers twitched near the twin glimmers on my hand. She saw them, knew. I nodded once. Deal. The star is yours, don't corrupt it. I pulled the star from my shirt and her eyes went wide, curiosity sharp as a blade. How did you do that? She asked, inching closer. Truth was, I'd taken it from my inventory game logic, not that she needed to know. Her stare made my instincts twitch. Magic, I said. Isn't it always some kind of magic? But she wasn't buying that. Magic doesn't explain everything. We call it that, but there's always a system. The college understands it one way, the Reachman another. I shrugged, deflecting. Same outcome, different syntax. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got business in the Pelagius wing. That place sits not just haunted, it's wrong. And here's a thought. If you walk willingly into the mind of a madman, are you insane or just spectacularly foolish? I'd prefer the madness. The halls were stale with dust and woven in webs, and yet nothing. No whisper, no shift. Until I reached for the hip bone. Click. The moment I pulled it out, the walls obeyed like loyal code unraveling. And the world changed. Sheogorath burst out laughing like a lunatic bard on skooma. That's rich! Almost as wild as a snow elf vampire priesta. But really, why are you here? Pelagius tried to chime in, hand raised like a good little student, but the mad god waved him off. Shh, serious talks are happening. So I jumped in trying to get to the point. Look, I'm just here to fix his scrambled mind so Solitude can stop freaking out about people vanishing into the Pelagius wing. Sheogorath nodded like he understood, but his next line proved otherwise. Of course. You're here for the Wappajack. What else would bring a noble weirdo like you? I mean, he wasn't wrong, kind of. I blamed it on Daedric logic and moved on. Where do we get started, I asked. He blinked like I'd just grown extra heads. Started? Sheogorath cracked up like a lunatic fireworks show. Oh, that's rich. A vampiric snow elf priest? Priceless. Before anyone could answer, he snapped his fingers and hushed the room. Shh. Serious business now. I jumped in, figuring clarity might speed this up. Look, I'm just here to patch up Pelagius' mind so the Blue Palace can stop losing people through that cursed wing. There's a portal. It leads. Well, here. Sheogorath tilted his head in mock understanding. Eyes wild with theatrical wisdom. Ah, yes, the Wappajack. You came for the Wappajack, of course. Why else would such a dashing figure be here? I shrugged internally, rolling my eyes. She wasn't wrong, just insane. So, where do we start? He blinked at me like I'd asked how to milk a thunderstorm. Started? Who already have? Go! 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 The Wappajack snapped into my hand like it had always belonged there, only now it was fused to my fingers like some twisted magical prank. No choice but to march forward. The mist curled around me as a voice mad and echoing slithered through the air. Ah, yes, Pelagius and his trust issues. Paranoia, born from dear old Potema. A gem of madness, that one. I didn't wait. I unleashed chaos with the Wappajack. The guards behind the throne exploded into fur and fangs, wolves now, and they pounced without hesitation. The man on the throne didn't even have time to scream properly before he was shredded. Shogorath's laughter rang out like cracked bells. As expected. You solved it before I even got to play narrator. Pelagius was plagued by monstrous night terror sand. I, of course, was tasked with curing the madness. Creeping through the dreamscape, I climbed a crooked tree in my tattered robe, steadying myself above the chaos below. The Wappajack pulsed and my Grypred bolt primed. I took aim at the tormented sleeper. Zap! A wolf burst forth. Another shot! Boom! A fire Atronach blazed to life, screaming through the dream. My mind flickered to another summoned thrall I'd seen once, but this was no time for reminiscing. I zapped again. Poof! The Atronach turned into a harmless fire pit. Hagraven next, then the dragon Prestige, a twisted echo of Pelagius' fractured psyche. When the final vision faded, Pelagius rose, oddly calm, and wandered to the fire. Sheogorath howled with delight. His mind's cured, or at least as cured as madness allows. Then Wushi was dragged back to the table, dreamscape unraveling behind me. Pelagius was drowning in nightmares, twisted echoes of madness tearing at his mind. They called it the mind of a madman, and I was supposed to fix it with a toy. From the shadows of a tree, I aimed the Wabbajack, that chaotic relic of unpredictability. One bolt bam, a snarling wolf. Next whoosh! A fire Atronach, flickering like the remnants of a broken spell. I remembered something about a summoned thrall. Was it still loose in this timeline? No time. Zap again, now the Atronach's a fire pit. Things got weirder. A Hagraven screeched into existence. Then came the Dragon Priest. Madness escalated fast. But just before the climax could swallow us all, Pelagius stood up, trance-like, and wandered to the campfire. Sheogorath's voice cracked through the dream space with a laugh that bent logic. Fixed. Or at least as fixed as the shattered can get. The night terrors receded. The storm of insanity folded in on itself, and just like that, I was ripped back to the table, back to Sheogorath, back to the madness that now somehow felt like home. He looked straight through me with that manic grin. Well, just look at you, all geared up, Daedric toy in hand, ready to shake the world sideways. Now try not to break reality, or do, ha-ha! Then, like a storm behind his eyes, it all dropped. Listen up, I've got another mission for you, traveler. Go to the Blue Palace, tell them the Pelagius Wing's curse is done. But then, I want you, yes, you glitch in the Codado, find and end Jigalag Grey Prince. He's no god, just a fraud walking Nirn in stolen shadow. Took the name of a power he doesn't deserve. Sheogorath slammed the table, a ripple through the aisles that rattled even the seams of my sanity. He's a Dunmer, leeching off divine crumbs, chasing pieces of Mehrunes' razor, you've got one. He's near Dawnstar now, but soon, Sol's time. Wait for him, he's coming for what you hold. When he does, make sure he never reaches the end of that blade. I barely remembered anything, just robes, beards, and madness. Then, the Mad One turned to me with a grin only chaos could wear, and with a casual decree, demanded all who could grow beards in the Shivering Isles must now do so be divine law, no less. Before I could argue, he winked, invited me to Strawberry Tort in some surreal capital, and vanished with a farewell that echoed like a joke only a god would find funny. I blinked suddenly wet, wooden tub beneath me, Wabbajack in hand, still dressed like a lunatic priest, but I was free. Armor on, staff stored, and robes too rare to toss. I watched a single purple butterfly drift out a window and fade into mist maybe. That's how minds get stolen in Pelagius' twisted dreamscape. Time. Did it even move while I was gone? Seconds or centuries? Only one way to find out. I barely remembered anything, but suddenly, beards were law. What do you think, mysterious stranger? He asked. I shrugged, and just like that he declared, new decree! Everyone in the Isles who can grow a beard must do so. Then he turned to me, grinning like madness incarnate. Take care, mortal, and if you ever find yourself a new Sheath, look me up. We'll share a strawberry tort. Ta-ta! Next thing I knew, I was in a wooden tub, still robed, still gripping the Wabbajack, but this time, I could let it go. I used it to hoist myself out, switched back into my armor, and kept the strange robes they felt important. A flash of violet caught my eye, a butterfly drifting out the window into mist. Maybe that was what pulled minds into Pelagius' realm. I needed to find out how much time had passed. Seconds? Days? Time was no longer something I trusted. The days blurred like a glitch loop from a mad god's joke. But the quest? Oh, the quest was divine chaos straight from the mouth of madness himself. Sheogorath dropped it in my lap like a ticking time spell. I wasn't in a hurry bad ideas age like sour mead. Stepping out of the Pelagius wing, I nearly collided with Falk, who looked like he'd seen a ghost juggling cheese. What happened? He asked. I shot him a thumbs up, no point explaining dreams stitched together by lunacy. It's handled, I said. Go nuts in there if you want. He mentioned Sibyl was looking for me. Great. My bones groaned louder than a Draugr choir as I made my way to her lab. Sibyl? I called, every step an echo of exhaustion. She turned, smirking. Took you long enough, but I finished analyzing the star. That Malin guy, his immortality plans got more holes than a skeever-infested cellar. Half-baked magic, twisted logic, and one reality warp day in the life of someone who probably stopped being just a player 3 timelines ago. I shrugged. Most folks chasing immortality end up halfway dead or fully cursed. Easiest route? Vampirism or some hacked up magic trick to stretch your lifespan. She gave a knowing nod. True, but this lunatic locked himself in a Daedric relic, leeching off the living. Honestly, he's more wisp than wizard, now short-sighted, brittle, pathetic. I raised a brow. So, you fixed it? She held up the artifact, gleaming and whole. Didn't even need to mess with your soul. Turns out your research was stuck in a box, the kind only the College of Winterhold would think was clever. I stared at the restored Black Star, then at her. Can I get some soul trap scrolls? She sighed like I'd asked for her last sweet roll. Bring me research materials. I twirled the Wappajack with a grin. How about this? Her smirk said it all. Another Daedric toy. Now we're talking. I planned this long before the achievements came calling. The necromancers who tried to leash Potima as their summon? Amateurs. No packs, no power, just delusions. Potima was death made will, a soul too sharp to cage. Immortality wrapped in her own corpse, wielding silence like a scream. Her knowledge? Cosmic. Locking her soul would earn a nod from Azura herself, unless you dared corrupt her star. That'd burn the sky. Me? I figured if you're gonna challenge a queen of the crypt, make it poetic. I made a pit stop by Odin, stared at the tree, played caretaker just to break the silence. How are you doing? I asked. Odin exploded. I am bored. The priestesses water me. One made some herb tea. Felt nice for a minute, but this is torture. I promised I'd take them for a stroll. Turns out hauling a sentient tree through cursed dungeons isn't exactly stealthy. I had this all mapped out before the achievements even popped. The Necros kicking off Potema's return thought they could leash her like some summoned pedimaters. With zero backing from the ideal masters, no divine packs, just wishful rituals. But Potema? She was a soulmancer wrapped in her own death, the kind of undead that didn't just linger she commanded. Trapping her would have taken a celestial nod or a relic blessed by a higher plane. Still, maybe sealing her away would score points with a certain Daedric Starlord who hates being tampered with. So there I was, playing gardener at Odin's root just to get a word in. How's it going? I asked. Odin roared back. I'm bored! One priestess dropped a herbal mix felt nice, sure, but seriously, nothing ever happens. I told them I'd take them adventuring, but hauling a sentient tree through dungeon crawl death traps? Not exactly efficient. Perhaps I'll schedule them a sightseeing trip, but not through a dungeon. Sorry, tree. I pat its bark and promise a festival instead. Odin pauses, then speaks. I've overheard guards. I want to see Whiterun, the College of Winterhold, and a dragon burial mound. A dragon burial mound, huh? Speaking of dragon Sani, rumors of them rising again, vampires attacking cities? Odin answers coolly, yes, they say the Dragonborn has returned, though I don't know from where. My inherited memories recall several, so I don't get how they're returning. As for vampires, cities are safe, but the vigilance of Stendar were wiped out, and the Dawnguard are recruiting. There's even talk of a green-furred Khajiit among them that stood out. Green fur? That's definitely a player. Sounds like a furry mod, not judging, just wow. I gave Odin a quick pat, thanks. Serena? Still sealed in. Makes sense. Serene was lurking around Markarth and Gunmer, who even knows anymore. Last I recall, he'd be bear wrestling in some mossy cave. Odds are they're on their way to Florentius, tucked behind a dungeon that's pure pain at low level. Meanwhile, the Dragonborn? Probably knee-deep in the Alduin arc, still didn't peg them as a player, but that might be changing. Should I pledge to the Imperials? The Civil War as a black box could be rewritten already. I kept wondering where the rest of us were. Someone had to launch from Sol's time, maybe even left it behind. I've already killed one player. Got a Daedric bounty to erase another. If I'm right, the player count's already dropping. 3 known, 1 gone by my hand, 1 marked next, and the Dawnguard fuzzball pacing just out of reach. I pushed open the door to the winking skeever and spotted Vyri sprawled across a table, clearly deep in the cups. So, are you drunk out of your wits? I asked. She blinked up at me, swaying. Huh? Oh, it's you. Yeah, let's go. Where are we going? A sigh escaped Mesh, was definitely drunk, but the cold hike would sober her up. Wolf Skull Cave, it's serious. Get your game face on. Her eyes lit up with reckless cheer. Okie dokie. I bought a really cool greatsword, by the way. I frowned how much had she spent. I gave her barely enough for bread, not blades. Later, at the cave, she clutched her head, wincing through a hangover. So what are we doing here, she asked. But this wasn't just another dungeon crawl. The quest tied to the man who cried wolf was only the beginning. The danger? It wasn't just what lived in the caveat, was what I planned to awaken inside it. Necromancers holed up in a cave were pulling off something truly unhinged, trying to resurrect the infamous Wolf Queen herself. Fyri's eyes bulged when she heard, blurting out, like Potema? Potema, the Wolf Queen? That actually made things easier. At least she knew what we were dealing with. I explained that Potima's soul was still terrifyingly powerful, and the Necros were probably mid-struggle, trying to bind it to their will. No ticking clock here, they were locked in a loop, battling for control. But if we jumped in too soon, we'd risk setting her loose. That's where my plan came in. I revealed the Black Star, and Vairi just stared at me like I'd lost it. "Are you insane?" she snapped. Maybe, but that wasn't the issue. The strategy was simple. We sneak in fast, avoid the Draugr, and erase the Necros. Once we reach the ritual site, I'll start the soul trap. Vairi will have to go full lone wolf and take out the rest. "Think you can handle this solo, or do you need that cursed ring to go full beast mode?" she asked, narrowing her eyes. I smirked. "You tell me," her answer came sharp. "I won't need to shift. I've got this." I raised a brow, warning her. "A master necromancer's likely waiting. Kill one, they raise another." She just grinned. "Then I'll kill faster." That earned a nod. "Let's end this." She unsheathed the fire. Enchanted Dwemer greatsword, smart choice since I only brought armor. I drew the Oathblade, lucky dagger strapped to my side. Inside the cave, a Draugr blocked our path. I gestured silently. She followed. We flanked it from above, heading straight into a necromancer camp, 2 of them by the fire. I signaled. She takes the right. We struck. Silence after. They died holding hands. For a second, guilt flickered. Then it vanished. I pushed open the dungeon door and spotted Thema's shaky necromancer rehearsing dark arts on bones, flanked by a Draugr and skeleton like stage props in a grim rehearsal. No need for a fight. Not yet. I glanced at Vairi, flicked my eyes toward the pit. She blinked like I'd grown a second skull. "Only way down," I whispered. She muttered something unkind and ghosted past the necro, vanishing into the drop with a clang that snapped attention like a whip. What was that? Curious Fool leaned over the edge right into my tackle. We tumbled down. Me breaking his fall. And him. With the topside undead still clueless, I waved Vairi forward. She darted ahead, into a passage soaked in oil, where some unlucky soul in dark robes scrubbed a spill with a mop like it mattered. I gave him a reason to stop. More threats ahead of Draugr, another novice too slow to catch us dropping off a staircase into the buried fort. Dust, bones, and old curses waited, but we moved like ghosts through them, silent and uncatchable. A swirling purple mist clung to the air as Vairi whispered, "This stuff isn't dangerous, right?" I kept my voice low, just etheric runoff from conjuration necromancers channeling raw mana to bind Potema. But they've got a problem no vessel strong enough to hold her. Ahead, more necromancers knelt in trance, leaking mana into the ritual. Vairi struck like a blade of judgment, slicing through 2-in-1 arc as I drove my Oathblade into an unarmored Draugr. It stuck the dry husk, gripped the steel like brittle bark, and I had to kick it free. The sword's enchantment dimmed for a heartbeat. Not good. I signaled Vairi to shadow the wall while I dealt with the last necromancer near the site. A swift cut ended them, and I dragged their robes over my armor. "I'm going in as one of them. I'll shout about an intruder. You crash the party." She nodded. I bolted up the stairs, voice sharp as steel. "An intruder! Someone's here to stop the ritual." Speechcraft level, up new skill tree unlocked, and just like that, I almost blew my cover. The ritual master's scream tore through my act. "You fool! You brought them here, trying to ruin everything?" I faked confidence and stammered, "I brought a Daedric artifact to Black Star. Maybe it can bind her soul." Potema's voice cracked the cave like thunder, mocking us all. "Fools! You think you can bind me? I've waited for this. No one controls me now." Blood spilled from the ritual master's nose as she howled, "Give me the artifact! Behind you!" I flung the Black Star just as Vairi stabbed a necromancer clean through. Hit the dirt, yanked out a soul trap. Scroll. No idea how this worked, but I triggered it. Purple energy surged forward, cutting through the mist like fate rewritten. Her form pulsed, a storm of violet fire in the ritual's core. I barely had time to register it before a soul trap scroll snapped in my hand. The magic lashed out and latched to her. Potema's voice split the air, raw fury crackling. "You dare try to soul trap me! I'll shatter you before you bind me to some petty trinket!" The ritual master screamed back, veins lit like runes. "By our blood and our chorus, the Wolf Queen shall be chained!" Vairi cleaved through another necromancer. None of them could step beyond the circle without losing everything. Only the master moved, faster now, voice tearing into the void. "Let their sacrifice drain you. Let the years anchor you. Let your—" Her cry cut short by blood and silence. Potema laughed, low and cold. "Fools! You think you command me?" More scrolls, more arcane threads. I forced the glow tighter, her dead gaze locking to mine like twin shards of winter. "It's you," she hissed. "You who dares entrap me." How dare you? The ritual master crumpled, blood pouring from their face as Potema screamed in disbelief and fury, realizing she'd been deceived. You tricked me into believing! I will obliterate your soul! Vairi and the other necromancer lay motionless, and even I felt blood drip from my nose, yet all I felt was cold resolve. The hearth shielded me. Smirking, I lunged for the black star, lifting it high. I bind you, Potema. Be confined to the star. Weakened never to walk Nirn again. Her glowing specter twisted with rage, no longer spiraling through the cavern but sucked into the star, piece by piece. Screaming curses, her face contorted with hatred. I will remember this. I don't know how you resist, but I will find a way back, and I will crush you. Her soul twisted into the void and vanished inside the black starno. Scream. No trace. A skeleton crashed to the ground in brittle fragments, Potema, but not the version burned into my memory. Notifications exploded across my vision. Unique achievement registered. Lich Slayer, Potema's master, summon Wolf Queen unlocked. The black star shattered its purpose, now just the star prison. Power surged through my veins, conjuration skill points sinking across Tree's Harmony and Division doing their silent work. I didn't hesitate. I drove my lucky dagger into the dying ritual master's throat, sealing the moment. I turned to Vairi. You okay? She wiped her nose, voice strained. Yeah, can we go back to solitude now? I nodded. Path's right there. My eyes landed on a pedestal. A tome sat, waiting on a skill book like protocol dictated, but something else. A conjuration spell? I sighed, stored it, then pulled the lever. The bridge dropped. Game logic bent. Reality blurred. The simulation moved on. I pointed ahead, this way. Vairi limped along, leaning on her greatsword like a broken crutch. I caught her before she tipped over, sliding her weapon into my inventory, just barely under my carry limit. I needed more stamina, and soon. Across the rubble-strewn hall sat a boss chest gleaming like a dare. I cracked it open and pulled out something glowing, something old, something important. What's that? She asked. I held up Meridia's beacon. Vital, but not yet. She groaned. I need a drink. I laughed. I need sleep. Chapter 39. Spells! We limped out of Wolfskull Cave, back to solitude. Vairi collapsed into bed like a broken puppet. I ate, then drifted into the level-up dreamscape. First thing, more stamina. The weight of power isn't just metaphor. Next up, I checked what I'd unlocked, and boom, there it was. A new skill tree called Espionage, hidden right next to Speechcraft, like it had been waiting for me to notice. It triggered when I hit the sweet spot between sneak and Speechcraft during high-stakes mimicry, undercover ops, or deflecting spy-level sabotage. The perks? Intriguing. A twisted mirror of my usual tricks. But specialized disguises, interrogation, finesse, political leverage, some perks were locked behind real-world acts. Faction leader demanded power. Influential decadence asked for fame with location-based limits. One wildcard stood out, hostile seduction. But it only triggered if I identified female. Its male counterpart, domestic ally, felt equally off. Honestly, neither fit my build. I closed the tree. Not my kind of power. Not yet. The skill tree looked promising, but aside from tossing a couple of points into the disguise perks just to snag Master of Faces, it didn't serve much use though. The idea of freely swapping faces was too tempting to ignore. Curiosity pushed me to drop 2 more points into Espionage just to test if the system even flinched. Then came the real payload, new unlocks tied to a rare achievement. First was Lich Slayer, a crit boost against undead, plus enhanced spell potency and duration, basically confirming the undead's resistance quirks. Shame I hadn't picked up Necromage yet. The stacking potential buzzed in the back of my mind. Next effect? Potema's Master. At first glance, I thought I'd earned a classic unique summon, but instead, I stumbled upon a spell called Summon Wolf Queen, a literal astral version of her. Weird, right? Digging deeper, I eventually found Potema's Master buried in my active effects. No details, just a blank, ominous descriptor. No clarity, no explanation, just the creeping sense that I'd activated something far beyond the intended script. So I figured freezing someone wouldn't be instant too bad. I tried fusing Summon the Wolf Queen. System said nope, so I diverged it. Boom. Summon Astral Phantom. Apprentice tier, like a spectral flame Atronash, but more aloof. Fuse that with Librefale again. Patterns started forming. Soul Trap plus Oak Flesh, Flash Ebony Flesh. No clue why that combo, but it worked. Soul Trap plus Alert, Detect Undeadma. Already had Detect, but the mechanics were whispering. Next fusion, Soul Trap plus Lock, Jackpot. Alteration spell, Ghostly Hand, made me intangible for 10 seconds, not stealth invisible, like stepping out of existence. Soul Trap was the catalyst I realized, so I diverged it. Result, Soul Extract. No flare, no chaos, just raw, code-piercing clarity. I figured freezing someone wouldn't be instant, so I didn't wait, just kept pushing the limits. Tried fusing Summon the Wolf Queen, failed. Pivoted, split it instead. Scored a new spell. Summon Astral Phantom. Looked like a cousin to Flame Atronak, just more spectral. Fused that with Libranothing. My mind kept turning. I fused Soul Trap and Oak Flesh Bam, got Ebony Flesh. Didn't even make sense at first. Then I tried Soul Trap and Alert Detect Undead. Not bad, but I already had better. Still, the pattern clicked. Soul Trap with Lock gave me ghostly hint and seconds of phasing through reality. Jackpot. Soul Trap was more than a capture spell, it rewrote states. I diverged it again, pulled out Soul Extract. Now I was seeing it. The code didn't care about logis, it cared about intent. They said the spell could only partially Soul Trap people, so I picked both Soul Trap and Soul Extract, right? Thought I was being clever, stacking Novice spell. Boom got hit with passive traits. Soul Strength and Soul Power. Soul Strength made me immune to getting Soul Trapped, great. No vacation to the Soul Cairn. But Soul Power? Same deal. Just let me wander the Soul Cairn without bleeding energy every step. I figured I was running low on Dream Mana, but who really knows? Then I remembered Wolf Skull Cave, Pedestal. That one tome I ignored like an idiot. Necromantic Ritual. I left the dreamscape kicking myself. When I woke up, first thing cracked open that dusty spellbook. And guess what? Trash tier spell. For 120 seconds, every time a conjured friend bites it, I gain 30 health and magicka. That's it. All that suspense, and I get a spell that rewards me for sacrificing my minions like spare batteries. Classic. I saw its potential instantly. Not just destructive firepower strategic synergy, the Flaming Familiar spell, Apprentice level, explosive strength, and triple the range for barely a whisper of magicka. Just 27 if I activated the Conjuration perk. But here's where it got thrilling, Parrot, with Necromantic Ritual, and I could unleash chain summon detonations across a battlefield. Death feeding fire feeding death. One spell to resurrect, the other to obliterate. Dangerous? Sure. The familiar could hurt the caster, but if timed right, I wouldn't just survive, I'd dominate. I remembered the tome's location, buried beyond the Morthal Marsh, sealed in the ruins. A side quest? Maybe. But in my script, it was a turning point. I whispered to myself, this changes everything. I pushed open the door of the Winking Skeever and saw the world still turning, unaware of what I was about to rewrite. Hey man, I called, stepping into the light. Sorex glanced up with that crooked grin of his. Hey, to you too, quiet mornings like this, best time to clean. I gave a nod fair enough, but he wasn't done. Attar came by last night, asked for you, said he'd pay for intel if you've got it. Now I was listening. Sorex chuckled, always enjoying the drama. It's Angeline, you know, the one with the alchemy shop. Her daughter joined the Legion. Something's up. Serious by the sound of it. I said I'd find him. Where? Sorex pointed me toward Castle Door. Apparently, he was talking to Captain Aldous. Great. Blue Palace. Then Castle Door again. I muttered something about joining the Legion for real someday. That's when Sorex perked up like a cat at the sound of a can opening. If you're heading to the palace, mind giving Falk Firebeard this? He held up a bottle of Stros Mackay rum, gleaming like mischief. He loves this stuff. I rolled my eyes, grabbed the bottle. Fine, I'll deliver it. I snatched the rum from Sorex, stashed it, and asked, you seen Viary? He shook his head, said she's still in her room, then wondered aloud why she drinks like she's battling ghost sand losing. I sighed. Her past's a dungeon. Locked up by her own father in the sewers. Traded away to a Daedric deal gone wrong. No school, no sunlight. Just solitude and rot. She's been drowning years in bottles. But lately, she watches me read like the words are stars she's never touched. I think she wants to ask me how to read, how to begin. Sorex nodded slow, worry simmering. Just hope she's climbing toward courage, not falling deeper. Silence crept in like fog, and I exhaled. Tell her I'm looking for her. Then I turned, leaving shadows and half-spoken hopes behind. Sorex gave a quiet nod, and I slipped out, mind already racing. That faux contract I cooked up for Viary might need to play that card soon. She's got spark, sure good instincts, decent form, but no edge, no grind. I had a few adjustments in mind. Turn her into more than just a tag-along, something better. But it wasn't just about power, it was about coin. Proudspire Manor didn't buy itself, and the Winking Skeever's upgrade wouldn't come cheap either. I struck a deal with Corpulus. Yeah, but my real plan needed movement, needed the Khajiit caravan to roll into Solitude. That's when I pushed through the Blue Palace gates, flicked a wave to the guardsome, nodded back, and headed for the throne room. Empty, save for a maid dusting corners. Where's Falk Firebeard? I asked. Office. First door on the right, she replied without skipping a beat. Office? News to me. But when I opened that door and spotted the bed tucked in the corner, I nearly burst out laughing. I greeted him awkwardly. Hey, Falk. And he chuckled, correcting me with a sly grin. Vec. Just use my title if the name's too twisty for your tongue. I winced, caught red-handed in the tangle of formality. Your name just flows too well. Hard not to say the whole thing. He chuckled again, softer this time. Eriker said the same once. Then he shifted, curious. So, what brings you here? Heard you just dropped back into the city. That cava, did you crack it? I gave a nod, handing him the rum. His eyes lit like spellfire. Ha! This? Picked up the taste in Hammerfell Stormy Night. Steady hands. Strong stuff. Used to drink it with King Torrig, back in the days before everything frayed. I let that silence breathe just a moment, before nudging forward again. Is Jarl Elisif still mourning? His nod carried weight. With this war, I fear she'll never step past the loss. But I hold hope that one day, love finds her again. Ahem, that cave? Yeah, Wolfskull Cave isn't just rocks and echoes. I found necromancers crawling all over it, trying to puppeteer the Wolf Queen herself back into existence. Patema, that name alone twists the air. The lights folks saw? That was the battle her will clawing at the veil, screaming through necromantic fire. I didn't hesitate, cut them down, banished her essence before she could breathe our plane again. Technically, she's trapped in a soul gemso, not a lie. I told them they'd better send a cleanup crew, maybe drop the whole thing into the sea. The place reeks of death magic more will come. Falk just stared. Was it really her, he asked? I nodded, fingering the necklace that saved my soul. Atmaran blood, Atmaran ward. She didn't just attack the body, she went for the core. I told Falk about the skeleton, I'm sure it was her. Stolen from the catacombs, maybe through a second entrance we haven't sealed yet. He stroked his chin like he was processing a broken command line, then said he'd send someone to sweep the place. Maybe even collapse the whole cave. Oh, and Sybil's finished her research. I helped her with that, remember? But Falk had more. He asked me how I'd feel about being a Thane. I played it cool, asked if it was his call. He laughed, said he could recommend me, said someone like me could be useful. Then, out of nowhere, he hits me with the real glitch. Could I convince Elisif to leave the palace? Just for a date. That's not a request, it's a protocol error, waiting to happen. I blinked. What? Falk looked sheepish, like someone who just broke the world and hoped no one noticed. A lot's gone sideways lately. The Jarl won't leave her chambers, not since the court ordeal. She's strong, but cracked down the middle. She needs relief. So, I need you to walk her through solitude during the Bard's College Festival. I sighed. Great, another detour. My quest backlog already pulsed with undead side notes. Dawnbreaker called to me beacon already secured but trekking back across solitude? Ugh. Easier to reclaim Lurbuck as my disposable tank. Viarmo stole him once. Not again. Fine, I said. I'll convince her. But I want keys to Proudspire Manor. Furnished. Falk smirked. Ha! You really do twist words into weapons. His sarcasm tried to mask it, but yeah, he agreed. The steward raised an eyebrow, offering me the keys if I paraded her at the festival, saying my deeds had already echoed through solitude, but full furnishings? That would only come if I could charm the Jarl herself. I gave a sly nod. Deal. Now, let's talk Sibeli want that artifact I handed over for her research back. Maybe the Wabbajack could twist fate enough for this King Olaf nonsense. If luck didn't bail on me. With a wave, I left him to his scribbles and made for Sybil's lair. There she was, hunched over an enchanting table, magic in the air like storm tension. The Wabbajack? I asked. No answer, just a finger toward the relic and a flick of her hand dismissing me like a buzzing skeever. Fine. I took the staff, stashed it, and made my way to the Bard's College, half expecting the walls to groan under the weight of all the off-key ambition. Viarmo and Lurbuck were mid-rehearsal, barely aware I'd entered until I spoke. How are you two doing? Lurbuck lit up like a torch bug. Haha, nice to see you, Vec. I've improved leaps and bounds. Want to hear it? Viarmo chuckled, eyes gleaming like a bard with a secret. You should really listen. He's not half bad once he picked up some words. Lurbuck scratched his head, grinning. All thanks to you, teacher. Viarmo dismissed the praise with a wave. You earned it. You worked for it. That warmth settled in for a beat before I leaned in. So, how about we finally grab that lost verse from King Olaf's tomb? Viarmo tapped his chin, mischief brewing. Not a bad idea, actually. Mind if I tag along? I'm handy with a bow and a spell or two. Every bard needs survival creds, right? I squinted, curious. Why come along? His smirk widened. Because this story writes itself heroes braving a crypt to reclaim a forgotten verse? That's gold. It's not just lyrics, it's legacy. I shrugged. I don't mind. Truth was, I'd already planned to leave Vairi behind. Potama's soul curse had shaken her deep. I'd tell Sorex to keep her away from the mead. She was still asleep, probably for the best. I gave a nod. Tomorrow, then. Meet me at the Winking Skeever. We'll head for the tomb from there. Lurbuck gave his usual slow nod. Viarmo chimed in with, Great, I'll start packing. With a wave, I slipped away. Castle Doer calls I've got business to handle. See you both in the morning. I didn't linger. Something told me Aldous and Ottar were cooking up another task for me, and sure enough, there they stood outside, eyes locked on Odin. Ottar blinked. What's this tree? Its leaves. They're snow white. I just shrugged. Bandit can't find. Took it by accident. Long story I'm not eager to retell. Odin sat silent, pulsing faintly. No thoughts, no words. I wasn't in the mood to figure it out. So, I asked, what did you want to talk about? Aldous frowned, voice low. You ever hear the saying, no news is good news? Go ask Angeline, city's alchemy expert. She had a daughter who enlisted in the Legion. Everyone assumed she died in the line of duty, and breaking the news to Angeline was a nightmare we didn't want to face. But then came something worse, something off. A new report. Twisted. Disorienting. They wanted me to look into it. That's when the notification flashed. Quest, a canary in a storm. My pulse jumped. What's this about? I asked. Ottar motioned me forward, silent as shadows. We slipped through Castle Dower, past the jailhouse, deeper than I'd ever gone. Then he spoke. We don't usually use this place. It's a torture chamber. Great, just great. The guy you're meeting worships Talos. Big time. Just keep that in mind. I nodded, stomach twisting. We stepped inside, and there he was. Bound, stormcloak. Eyes burning like a glitch trapped in a loop. Next to them stood a towering, slender Altmer gaze sharp, voice colder than frostbite. So, you're Vec? She said, her tone unreadable. Listen and answer. No time wasted. She motioned to a silent soldier nearby, stormcloak down to the bone. There should have been a battle. Our side ambushed. Small battalion. Gone. I nodded, piecing it together. Her eyes never blinked. We assumed Legion forces were involved. Trinkets personal, ones left behind at the scene. Things soldiers carry to remember the fallen. We found them scattered, but no bodies. No scorch marks. No blood. No signs of a fight. I asked, nothing? Not even dragon signs? Her face didn't change. Nothing. No fire. No claws. Just rumors of resurrection, of old powers waking. Silence filled the space like a loaded spell. Something didn't add up, and whatever it wasn't written in any quest log I knew. I rubbed my chin, calculating, and one of them was her daughter, right? So how does it all tie back? Ottar's brow tightened. We found her arm. Clean cut. Nothing conventional could have done it. I hesitated. Could it be another player? A glitch walker? Any sign sculpts? Anomalies? The Altmer woman gestured toward a table, her voice hushed. We considered that. This is ground zero. At first, we blamed rogue stormcloaks. But then, we found more. Not bodies, just him. This individual brought him in. He confessed instantly, just muttering, non-stop. I froze. Canary in a storm. That's what the quest is called. Was she the canary? Was it fate or a bug in the system? I froze. Could it be Falmer? The map flickered, confused dots glowing near Frostflow, but something felt off. Ottar stepped closer, frowning. Falmer? What are those? He hadn't seen what I had. Not yet. Frostflow wasn't where it was supposed to be, bent closer to Dawnstar now, as if time rewrote it overnight. Sheogorath whispered of a player who went missing there. Maybe they weren't a player anymore. Ottar muttered something about Captain Aldous explaining the Falmer. I stayed quiet, gears turning. You still have that arm? I asked the woman. How do you know it was hers? Show me the cut. No time for sympathy. She nodded, leading us into a chamber colder than logic. The arm was preserved, untouched by decay, inked with delicate tattoos memories etched in skin, tributes to a father long gone. The past had fingerprints, and I was reading every line. I inspected the severed arm no rot. Nowhere, just raw flesh curling around pristine bone, sliced clean through enchanted metal like it was parchment. My breath caught. What was this? Before I could speak, she blinked and smiled. Oh, I'm Canary. Odd. I know. Not very 11, but I picked it myself. Used to serve the embassy. Didn't like their methods. I believe mortals can become divine. The Dwemer thought so. The embassy does too, but they ignore the one who actually did it. I find that laughable. That's when the quest made sense. It wasn't about the wound or the name, it was about unraveling something deeper. No more clues needed. The system had already chosen me. I sighed. I think I know what's doing this. Her glance sharpened as we slipped out of the frost-soaked chamber, footsteps echoing alongside Captain Aldous and Ottar. Tell me you've at least considered the Thalmor. Silence flared like static, then a shared nod, a mutual breath. We didn't mean to play Inquisitor. So they'd guess. Good guess. But I needed their why. Why them? Attar spoke first. They just put out a bounty gray prince. A Dunmer. No background, just danger. Aldous edged back, voice low. Angeline's daughter. Her arm. Too precise. Too clean. Only the Thalmor carved like that. Canary's voice cracked through it all. And me. I'm on their blacklist. Philosophy clash. I stopped believing in their perfect world. I've never worn another mask. I've always been an Inquisitor, wired to unravel truth, not to pretend. I know how these systems run because I've been part of their code since the start. When I tapped the prompt, the quest didn't just update one seat branched. Canary in a Storm morphed, and something from Sheogorath twisted into it. A new directive, find the Grey Prince before the Thalmor erase him. I asked if they believed those soldiers were still breathing data. Silence. Then Aldous cut in, his voice tight. He hated being the messenger of loss, hated the finality coded into death flags. I understood. So what's the plan? I asked. Canary's voice filtered through like static laced with resolve. She had an idea, but I had loose ends to tie. I told her I'd be off to a Nordic tomb, tracking King Olaf's verse for a future scene. Timing? Aldous answered. Just me and Canary, while the Thalmor talk politics with General Tullius. That's her window to disappear me cue to rewrite everything. Me and Attar couldn't leave the city even if we wanted to. I nodded like I understood, but my mind was already racing. Where are we headed then? If it's Dawnstar, I'm not doubling back to Solitude. Canary gave that sharp nod of hers, already half gone in thought. I'll send you the plan tomorrow. Bring backup. This won't be easy. I sighed. Guess Vyree's day off just got canceled. Guilt flickered, but duty stomped it out. This wasn't the kind of quest that waits politely. I stepped out of Castle Dower, mind ticking like clockwork. Supplies, allies, contingencies. Whatever's coming, it's bigger than I signed up for. And yeah, that was a long chapter.